Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. Now this is a continuation of my series of top 10, 15, 20, 30 albums from 1965 to 1989, and I put a poll up with 66, 88 and 89 and no surprises, 66 won. So this is actually going to be a short one because it's only going to be a top 15. A really good year, 1966, England won the World Cup, and I put my head out to say hello to the world. So I was actually born before England won the World Cup. So as normal, I am going to pick three bubbling unders, and they are Judy Collins, In My Life, and there's some really good covers in this. She does a good cover of Suzanne by Leonard Cohen before he recorded it, and the same with Dress Rehearsal Rag, which was actually about 5 years before he recorded it. I think It's Going to Rain Today, the Randy Newman song, is beautiful, but the highlight for me is her version of Just Like Tom Thumb Blues, the Bob Dylan song from Highway 61, is absolutely brilliant. My other bubbling under is Tim Hardin. Tim Hardin won his first album. There's some really good tracks on this, but there's a couple that I don't like. I don't like the bluesy songs, especially Smuggling Man. But Don't Make Promises is brilliant, as is Green Rocky Road. And this is the one with Reason to Believe on it, which Rod Stewart covered really well for his Every Picture Tells a Story. And How We Hang On to a Dream is another great song. And my third bubbling under is actually an album I don't have on physical format, but I do on MP3, and it's Nancy Sinatra Boots, and basically all she does is contemporary songs of the day, and she puts a bit of a swing to it. And for example, Day Tripper, it's really weird to hear the riff done with horns rather than guitar, but I really do enjoy it. And she also does the other 65 Beatles song, Run For Your Life, which I think is very good. As Tears Go By, excellent as well. I Move Around, possibly my favourite track off that. And of course, These Boots Were Made For Walking, which was #1 in the UK the day I was born. Okay, I also want to just give a shout out to the two Roy Orbison albums of this year, which are the classic Roy Orbison and The Orbison Way. They're decent albums without being spectacular. Okay, getting into the top 15, and my number 15 is the Monkees debut, and yeah, this is a pretty good record. It starts off a theme from the Monkees that everybody knows. Saturday's Child is a really good riff song. However, then you get I Wanna Be Free, which is one of those really slushy, saccharine Davy Jones vocal songs, which I just don't like. However, this just doesn't seem to be my day. Another Davy Jones song I think is really, really good fun. Sweet Young Thing, Mike Nesmith song, I think is very good, and I'll Be True to You is another Davy Jones ballad, but this time it's not too bad at all. The two highlights really for me are Take a Giant Step, which is great, and of course Last Train to Clarksville, which is an excellent track. But overall it's a really good album, and I'm really starting to enjoy the Monkees now. I've got a few of their albums. I bought a Job Lot about 3 or 4 years ago, very, very cheap. I played them and I thought, nah, they're alright, but I'm starting to enjoy them a lot more. So the Monkees gets my number 15. And at number 14, a band I know absolutely nothing about, and I heard of them on the VC a few years ago, and my old record shop that I used to go to, which is now shut down, had a second-hand copy of this album for £5, so I thought I would pick it up. And it's The Association, and it's called And Then Along Comes the Association. The one word I would use to describe this is harmonizing. There's harmonies all over this album, and they're really, really good songs as well. It opens up with Enter the Young, which is a very, very good opener. Don't Blame It On Me, it's got a very nice laid back feel to it, with plenty of ba-ba-ba-bas, which I really do like. I'm a sucker for those sort of backing vocals. Blistered, very, very upbeat song with plenty of harmonica in it as well. Cherish on side 2, it sounds a little bit like a Four Seasons song, especially with the harmonizing. But the big one for me is Message of Our Love, which sounds really like the Beach Boys. You would swear it was a Beach Boys song around the time of Today, side 2 of Today. Absolutely great track. Along Comes Mary is the hit single, and I think it's a weird one because they seem to try and get as many words into the one verse as possible, as if they're cramming them in, but it's really, really good. I'll Be Your Man's not bad. Remember and Changes, good album actually. As I say, I know nothing about them, but it gets my number 14. And number 13 is the Supremes and the Supremes A Go Go. Yeah, I think this is good. This is very Motowny and with lots of big hits on it. It opens up with Love Is Like Itching on My Heart, which is very Motowny. And you also get You Can't Hurry Love, which is a huge hit obviously, and a big hit for Phil Collins. This Old Heart of Mine, another big hit. I'm not too sure who actually sang that originally, but I know Rod Stewart had a top 10 hit with it. They do a version of These Boots Are Made for Walking, which is not a patch on the Nancy Sinatra. But you get I Can't Help Myself. I love that song. I think that was a Four Tops track. I always call it Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, but do a really good version of it, and a decent version of Money, That's What I Want. In fact, not as good as the Beatles, but better than the Rolling Stones. Hang On Sloopy, again, pretty good. And Come and Get These Memories, which I think must have a lead vocal from either Florence Ballard or Mary Wilson, one of the two. I'm not too sure because it's not Diana Ross. But yeah, very Motowny album, really enjoy it, and it gets my number 13. And slightly above it at number 12 is the Supremes' I Hear a Symphony. And the reason why I slightly prefer this is because I think it is more varied. You do get the Motowny Supremes tracks like the title track, which is one of their best ever singles, and they do a great version of A Lover's Concerto, which is one of my all-time favourite songs. But it starts off with Stranger in Paradise, which is almost like one of those standard type songs, but I think it is really good. A nice version of Paul McCartney's Yesterday. With a Song in My Heart, it's very good, and without the song, some of this, as I say, is very standardy, and I absolutely love the song Wonderful Wonderful, which I think was a hit for Johnny Mathis, if I'm not mistaken. Everything Is Good About You is great, and another one of their big known songs is My World Is Empty Without You. I think it's just sort of just edges Supremes A Go Go because it is so varied, and I actually do prefer that cover. So I Hear Symphony gets my number 12. And at number 11 we have the Everly Brothers and Two Yanks in England. Now this actually is essentially a Hollies album because 2/3 of the songs were written by the Hollies and played by the Hollies, and it is really just a beat album, which I think is excellent. It opens up with Somebody Help Me, which was a huge hit for the Spencer Davis Group. As I say, most of these tracks are written by the Hollies, Alan Clark, Tony Hicks and Graham Nash, under the name L. Ransford. I've Been Wrong Before has a bit of a Kinks guitar feel to it, but I think it's very good. Have You Ever Loved Somebody is the only one that I think has a little bit of a country edge to it, especially in the verses, not so much in the chorus. But as I say, this is a beat album. Signs That Will Never Change has got a little bit of a Byrds feel to it, and The Collector has really nice harmonies with a really melodic chorus, and it was written by the two guys, as was Kiss Your Man Goodbye, I think. And they also do a version of the Man for Man #1 hit, Pretty Flamingo. Yeah, it's a beat album from the Everlys, slightly different to what they were doing, and I think it's very good, and it gets my number 11. And at number 10 we have the Seekers and Come the Day, and yes, I do love the Seekers. I love Judith Durham's voice. This opens up with Come the Day, which is really uplifting. Island of Dreams is one of my all-time favourites. I know the Springfields did it, but they did it in a slightly more countrified way. This is done the Seekers way, and I think it's great. The Last Thing on My Mind is a very good version of the Tom Paxton song. The Seekers do a version of Yesterday as well, which is very good. The big hit off here is Georgia Girl, which is huge in America and huge in the UK. Really good track. Well, Well, Well is very good. I also love Louisiana Man, which Dave Edmunds did a cover of it in his DE7th album. All Over the World's lovely song I Wish You Were Here, which is a Bruce Woodley and Paul Simon co-write. Really very good album, and it gets my number 10. And at number 9 we have Fifth Dimension by the Byrds. Now this is the one that features the brilliant 8 Miles High, one of the best singles of the 60s, as well as 5D, which is a very folky sort of Roger McGuinn type song. I believe it's Roger McGuinn. Mr. Spaceman, really catchy. I even like I See You, which I think is the David Crosby track. Captain Soul's not bad. What's Happening is not a bad track, and that's also, I think, a David Crosby track. I think this is very good. I think they are missing Gene Clark a little bit, but still it's an excellent album, and it gets my number 9. And at number 8 we have the Rolling Stones and Aftermath, and whenever this is good, this is brilliant, and whenever it's not good, it's just not good. You know, Going Home, the big long track, you know, I like the start of it, but then it just goes into a mess. Mother's Little Helper's not a bad track, as is Stupid Girl. You have Lady Jane, which is one of their all-time best ever songs, and Under My Thumb, which is brilliant as well. Side 2, Flight 505 I've always liked, and I've always loved the sort of country tinged High and Dry. Out of Time, brilliant, and it's this version that I like the most. And What to Do is a nice little sort of pop song at the end, but there's a few songs I'm not that keen on, like Don't You Bother Me, It's Not Easy, Take It or Leave It and Think. But it could have been chopped down a little bit, but it's still a pretty good album. It gets my number 8, and this is the first Stones album where they wrote everything. And at number 7 we have a quick one by The Who, and this is my favourite Who album. I like everything off it. Don't Look Away I think is really catchy. It's almost like a country song. Run Run Run's not a bad opener. A Quick One While He's Away is like his first ever little mini opera, which is great. See My Way is good. I Need You is fantastic. I think that's the drummer Keith Moon's track, or one of his tracks. I also like Cobwebs and Strange, which is another one of his tracks. Whiskey Man, very good, and the best track on this is So Sad About Us, which the Jam recorded as the B-side to Down in the Tube Station at Midnight. Everybody has a go at writing here, including Roger Daltrey, and I think it's an excellent album. It's their second album, and it's my favourite Who album, and it gets my number 7. At number 6, and we have Face to Face by the Kinks, and this is the start of their Purple Patch. Opens up with Party Line, with Dave's vocals really good. Rosie, Won't You Please Come Home, another good song. Dandy, very catchy. I think it was a hit for Herman's Hermits. Too Much on My Mind is a brilliant track. Session Man, really catchy as well. And House in the Country, really good track. Sounds a little bit like the Blur's Country House, a little bit, not too much. Side 2 has Holiday in Waikiki and Most Exclusive Residence for Sale, 2 brilliant tracks. You have Sunny Afternoon, what a single, absolutely brilliant. And then the very sort of simple I Remember at the end, which I think is magnificent. As I say, the start of the Kinks' Purple Patch, brilliant album, and it gets my number 6. And at number 5, and I am giving it to Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. This took me forever to get into, but I got into it gradually. Initially it was 3 songs I loved, then it was 4, then it was 5, and there are 5 songs on here that I think are, I mean, top notch. They really are brilliant. The rest of them are not quite as good, but they're still enjoyable. Those 5 songs are Wouldn't It Be Nice, which I love. You Still Believe in Me, I absolutely love that track. I'm Waiting for the Day is so uplifting, a brilliant song. Slip John B, of course. I know a lot of people don't think it fits on this, but I do. And God Only Knows is a classic. But there's other ones I really like. That's Not Me, Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder, which is very good. Pet Sounds, even the little instrumental I like. Caroline, no, I struggle a bit with. I know it's supposed to be one of his best, but I struggle with it a little bit. Here Today, very good. Yeah, excellent album, and it gets my number 5. Now number 4, I'm giving it to this because it is the British version, and it's Simon and Garfunkel, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme. And this is the one with Scarborough Fair on it, Patterns and Cloudy, brilliant. The Big Bright Green Pleasure Machine, which I think is really good fun. I know a lot of people think it's a little bit of a filler, but I really do like it. And of course the 59th Street Bridge song, Feeling Groovy. Side 2, Dangling Conversation, which was a single. It wasn't a great choice of a single, it did nothing. Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall is another one of those very catchy songs. A Simple Desultory Philippic, which really is a tribute to Bob Dylan, which I think is good. And then Art Garfunkel's masterful voice on For Emily Whenever I May Find Her. Poem on Underground Walls, another good track, and then we have 7 O'Clock News with Silent Night, which I think is a genius track, where they're just singing Silent Night and they hear the local news in the background, and it is all bad news. But the reason why this is number 4 is because it doesn't have Homeward Bound on it, which was on the American version. Homeward Bound was actually on my number 3, The Sounds of Silence, on the British version. So if I was doing this with the American versions, I would probably switch the 2 albums about, but Homeward Bound is actually the song that clinches it. I love this as well. I think it's great. Sounds of Silence, magnificent track. It says The Sounds of Silence here. I think it's actually called The Sound of Silence. Leaves That Are Green, beautiful. Blessed, which I never liked when I first heard this. I thought it was too religious, but I love it now. Kathy's song, gorgeous. Somewhere They Can't Find Me, I think it's good. It's a reworking of Wednesday Morning 3 AM. But my problem is Angie. It's the same tune and it's an instrumental, and I think they should have left that off. Homeward Bound opens side 2, great. Richard Corey, another good song, and Denny Lane sang that with Wings during the Wings Over America tour. A Most Peculiar Man, another wonderful song. April Come She Will is Art's gorgeous voice again, and then we've got a groovy thing going. It's a little 60s song, but it's really, really good fun. And then I Am a Rock, which is a classic. The majority of this album actually featured on the Paul Simon songbook with just Paul and an acoustic guitar. I prefer these versions, to be honest, and there's a couple of other songs that go on to Parsley Sage, like Flowers, Never Bend with the Rainfall, and Patterns, and the Bob Dylan tribute. So Sounds of Silence gets my number 3. And at number 2, and I don't know, number 2 and number 1 I've always struggled with, and this time I'm going to give my number 2 to Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde. And the reason being is there's a couple of tracks that I'm not keen on in this. My number 1, I like them all. So the ones I'm not keen on are Pledging My Time and Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat, which are 2 bluesy tracks. But this contains some fantastic tracks. I do like Rainy Day Women numbers 12 and 35, and thank God I'm reading this because I can never remember those numbers. It's sort of out of place, but I still like it. Visions of Johanna is very good, and Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues again is one of his all-time best songs. Just Like a Woman, everybody loves that, and I also love the very poppy I Want You. Most Likely You Go Your Way, I'll Go Mine, great track. Absolutely Sweet Marie is very good as its 4th time around. However, there's one track on this which possibly is my favourite track from the 60s, never mind just of Bob Dylan, and it's Sad Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. Absolutely love it. It's a really, really good double album, but as I say, there's a couple of tracks that I'm not keen on, and that's why this gets number 2, which means my number 1 album from 1966, and there's no surprise at all, and it is Revolver by the Beatles. There's nothing bad off this at all. Taxman, brilliant opener. Paul Weller stole the bass line for that for Start by the Jam. Eleanor Rigby is a classic. I'm Only Sleeping. It's really psychedelic, but I love it. Love You Too is one of George's best Indian songs. I think it is his best, and I think it fits here. Then you get Here, There and Everywhere. Oh my God, that is such a fantastic ballad. Absolutely love it. Yellow Submarine, I'll come back to that. She Said She Said is a good rocker, really. It's a good heavy song. Then you get the pop sensibilities of Good Day Sunshine. Then the riff-tastic And Your Bird Can Sing. For No One, another McCartney ballad, which is brilliant. Dr. Robert gets slated a little bit, but I love it. I Want to Tell You is probably the weakest track off this, but I still do like it, the George Harrison track. And then the horns of Got to Get You Into My Life, absolutely brilliant. And Tomorrow Never Knows, which I do like, but it's most people's favourite, but it would be in the bottom half of this album for me, but I still like it. Now Yellow Submarine, should that be on this album? Should it have been replaced by Rain or Paperback Writer? And the answer is no way. Yellow Submarine deserves to be on this, and I think it's just another branch from the Revolver tree, and I absolutely love it. The only thing I would say is McCartney songs, although they're all over the place, you've got the horns, you've got the ballads, You've got the orchestration. You don't have any McCartney rockers, so I would have liked Paperback Writer to have been on this, and maybe I want to tell you to have been the B-side of Rain, the Johns song. But still, it's a 10 out of 10 album and deserves to be the #1 album of 1966. Okay, so that's my ranking of the top 15 albums of 1966. I hope you enjoyed that. I will put a poll up again for the next one, and it will be 3 80s ones, because I've only 6 more left to do. 1 from the 60s, 2 from the 70s, with 1973 being my last one because it's my favourite year, and 3 from the 80s, so I need to get the 80s ones done. Okay, that's me for now. Hope you enjoyed that, and see you soon. Bye bye.